And good evening, everyone. I'm just going to change this because I don't know how everyone is seeing this. I have the chat up there, so that everyone can see the chat. I'm going to change this for a second and give you a fuller screen here. So I want to welcome everyone to another OSR Tabletop with myself, Richard Bloodworth. I know it says DM Bloodworth up top. I'm going to change that eventually because I haven't run D&D in a little while now, a couple of weeks. And so I'll probably just settle with Game Master there. But I am joined today by Hunter, who is also known as Ultra from the Ultra American TTRPGer YouTube channel. You can also find him on X as well under the same. I believe it's just it's Ultra TTRPG. At Ultra TTRPG. There, I will put links in the final version of this when it goes into record mode. So welcome, Hunter. It's a pleasure to meet you semi in person, and I'll let you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your channel.
Yep. So again, I'm Hunter, aka the Ultra American TTRPGer, or my nickname, the Jim Jones of Classic Gaming, and that's a whole story I have behind that nickname. But basically the whole thing I do is I talk TTRPGs, a little bit of culture war stuff here and there, and sometimes the two like to collage for different topics, which is what I do with my friend the Conservative Wiccan, where we do a show called A Witch and a Paladin on both YouTube, and I'm also on Rumble as well. So if you look at Ultra TTRPGer on Rumble, that's under that same name as well, and that's also my X handle, Ultra TTRPGer on X as well.
Yeah, so welcome everyone that is in the chat. I see some new names here, and I'm just going to go down really quickly and say the OSR Dwarf, hello. And if anybody has a channel that I am not already subscribed to, please let me know that you have a channel. That's kind of I have seen Hunter and the Ultra American TTRPGer in my comment sections over however long he's been on my channel from time to time, and I didn't realize that he has his own YouTube channel until recently, and I'm going to go into that in a second. But I always try to practice reciprocity, and if someone else has a channel and they're already following mine or subscribed to my channel, I always follow back. So I'm following back, people that actually have active channels. I'm following some like almost 300 different channels, so I can't keep up with them all, but I try. All right. But great to meet him. So how did I discover this? So I'm watching another YouTuber, Gamers on Games, and Gamers on Games, David Simpson or Dave Simpson is someone who is certainly on the other side of the spectrum of me as far as politics or even gaming and politics. I really don't include politics in my gaming. It's very, very rare, and it's only when politics legitimately overlaps with gaming. So when I see politics infecting the way that gaming companies are reacting to their consumer base, or I've brought up the issues with like the tariffs, when the tariffs were a potential problem for publishing or getting materials, shipping costs and that kind of stuff. So I get into politics that is directly related to gaming. I do not get into politics that is whether it's identity politics or social politics or whatever, in my gaming. It's like I really don't care who's sitting across from me at the table, whether it's virtual or live. and as long as they're there to play the game. All right. And so when I heard him, Dave Simpson, Gamers on Games, bad mouthing Hunter here, and he was like, I don't want to give this guy any oxygen because he has a channel with less than 100 subscribers," and I was like, it's like, well, let me see what I can do to change that, and it was a great pleasure to actually find your channel, and I started boosting it, and I was like, if I can get the channel over 100 subscribers by Friday, I said, then we'll go through, and this was what, on Monday, or
Monday or Tuesday, I think
Monday
it
or
was.
Tuesday, and by the following day, it was already
Yep.
there. So I was like, now you also had Chubby Funster on the channel, so I'm not going to take 100% credit because I'm sure you picked up a lot of followers from him being on your channel as well.
Yeah, I've had Chubby Funster. That was the second time I had Chubby Funster on. When I first started doing the live streaming stuff, I think it was the second or third show I did was we were talking about, because this was back when Venger brought up the shadow darkening of the hobby. So I
Yeah,
had Chubby Funster come on, who is a very prominent shadow dark maker, and
right.
I own a lot of his shadow dark material because
Yes.
I love his work. He does great designs, and we were talking about just that in general. I did a play. I our TTRPGs, instead of going, well, are they going dark? To play
Yeah.
are going more towards Shadow Dark, because when you look on Draft RPG, I actually see so many Shadow Dark games and
Yes.
supplements and stuff, and I've bought different things. I bought one that was it's a Atomic Shadow, so it's like Gamma World with Shadow Dark.
Right.
A guy I follow, Runeforged, he's done Shadows over Camelot, which is King Arthur,
Cool.
but using that same
Yeah.
rules. So a lot of these guys I follow either have in some form or another have made Shadow Dark stuff. And then what was interesting about with Chubby Funster doing Shadow City, I do not like how World of Darkness create a lot of their books, because my opinion is the very first Hunter the Reckoning book was the only good one that White Wolf did, because it gutted the lore. It's just, you're a hunter, you go and kill the monsters.
Right.
That's all that was important. Whereas then you get into the new 5th edition books, it was like, oh, the lore and all that. And I'm just like, I don't need this. So as someone who doesn't like World of Dark games, I'm very much looking forward to Shadow City, because I backed that on Kickstarter myself. So
Right. Yeah. Um, and I know that Venture Satanis was another issue that Gamers on Games had,
yeah.
had a real problem with. It was that you were supporting Chalt, and the Red Room and such, and that's what really triggered me to think about what was I going to make the kind of secondary theme of this live stream. And I was like, let's do what I call the guilty pleasures, right? So these are the guilty pleasures of the TTRPG hobby, where there are many either edge lords or whatnot, or just people that publishers or game designers, sometimes artists, where there's a segment of the hobby that will say, don't touch their stuff, don't go near it, don't, we're not going to invite those people on. And they really do try to do the whole cancer culture aspect of it. And it's certainly, they certainly don't have the same power they used to have, especially like with you're saying that you came into the hobby really in 2019, and I'll let you talk a little bit about that as well. But that's when they were practically at their height, was 2019, 2020, 2021. And I mean, going back earlier than that with that Gamergate, and in 2012 when that really started firing up. And I'm going to be talking about some of those authors, publishers today as well. But that's what really got me to, thinking about what would be the subtext
Mm-hmm.
of this live stream, and talking about some of the game systems out there that are actually very good game systems that have really bad reputations, and they've tried to blacklist or shut down some of these. And so I'll go over those in a few minutes too. But your introduction into the gaming. So you mentioned to me prior to going live, 2019. So how did you come into this hobby?
So it's funny because I was familiar before 2019. I was familiar with what D&D was.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard of Critical Role in the past, but none of those things really caught my attention because a lot of my fantasy, I'm like, I got enough fantasy in movies. Why would I want to again play a fantasy game at the table when I can just watch on screen?
Right.
And so 2019, COVID-19 happens. We're all
Mm-hmm.
stuck in the house,
Yeah.
driving my side. So I'm living with my parents at the time. My little kid was with me too. He was like an infant because he was just born like that 2018.
Right.
So I'm trying not to go insane. And for some reason on social media, I see this game called City of Mist, which uses it's an offshoot of the Powered by the Apocalypse based system because it doesn't work exactly like Powered by the Apocalypse, but it's very much the same structure and move system.
Right.
But it's modern. It's basically like modern day urban fantasy. You're people with powers based on gods, myths, monsters, all that jazz. So you have a human life, and then you have your mythological life as well. That's kind of happening on the side. And it was very much like a detective. It was very much like a detective noir type game. You're going around, you're solving mysteries of other stuff going on in the city, and I got really hooked on that kind of narrative aspect in the setting. So
Mm-hmm.
I played that for the longest time. What really got me spearheaded to kind of where I am now was I forget the year it happened. And I have no issue talking politics outside of the gaming table because that's politics is what got kind of pushed me to be where I am now.
Right.
Hence why I'm the Ultra American TTRPGer because it was right after Roe v. Wade got overturned.
Right.
Because I only bring this up because it plays a part in the story of how I became to be, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And a server that I was in on Discord that I was friends with other CMist like content creators. I was interacting with them, planning to do
Mm-hmm.
stuff with them. And well, these people, while they were very much left leaning at the time, I was like, they're allowed to have their own politics. And they can say what they want. I'm just here for the game.
Right.
But then they started bringing it into like the server spaces and talking about like this is really bad. People who vote for this are bad. And I'm just like, and I was like, hey, why don't we not talk about this and just play some games instead? And I got immediately like slandered and sassed at for it. I got banned from the servers. That those same people tried to do like several like cancel campaigns against me, and I'm sure you can find remnants of it on X somewhere because this was like
Yeah.
years ago. Because I didn't get on X until about 2 years ago because I didn't trust it before Musk took over. I
Right.
stayed as far away from back when it was Twitter. I stayed as far away from that. But then when it became X, I was like, okay, I now think this is safe for me to use as a platform. I don't feel like I'm going to like come on and basically get bashed at.
Right.
And so I made an X account again almost 2 years ago, and I decided to call myself the Ultra Mega TTRPGer because it was like, oh, you're going to attack me because you don't like how I think and my values I believe in. Then I'm
Right.
just going to double down on them. Then at
Right.
that point.
Yeah.
So instead of just being an American TTRPGer, I became the Ultra American TTRPGer
Yeah.
because my idea was I love my games and I love my country, even if we go down the shitter sometimes. Excuse my French there.
Yeah. No. No
So
problem. Yeah. It's live stream, so it's not
yeah,
as the same issue as recorded. But yeah, no
yeah.
problem at all. Yeah. I mean, it's a my introduction to my reintroduction to tabletop role playing games because I started playing in around 78, 79,
Hmm.
12, 11 or 12 years old. And then I played up until around 88, 89-ish. Then my friends went to college. I entered the military in 90. Somehow in the army, I never encountered anyone playing D&D. So it's like, I must have just been in that kind of a unit where nobody was playing, those games. We were playing plenty of PlayStation and, other stuff like that, shooting dice and that kind of thing. But no one was playing tabletop role playing games, not in my unit at least. And then I came out and I started doing, computer gaming, and I was really into, like Sid Meier's Pirates and, a lot of pirate themed stuff. And then MMOs, I started getting into, MMOs in the, really 2000. And so I kind of missed like, I kind of missed some of those earlier ones, but I went like 2000, bang, I was into it. And from 2000 to 2015, I was doing a lot within, the MMO space. I was doing a lot of alpha testing. I was actually an official moderator for Bethesda's website, for Sea Dogs and doing their things, and just doing a lot involved with that. But I started getting burnt out around 2015, and one of the last MMOs that I was involved with um, was Pathfinder Online, and it was in Pathfinder Online that a person came on and they said, "Hey, there's this tabletop role playing game that we need to ban. We need to have no one on this website, which was the official forums of Paizo. No one
Hmm.
here should be talking about or interacting with this tabletop role playing." And he was talking about Mifrog. All right, so and me being a school teacher, of secondary education, so I was primarily teaching middle school and high school, and you know, I just have a natural curiosity for things. I'm also very contrarian. So when you tell me not to do something, I got to look at it at least. I got to learn for
Hmm.
myself and judge for myself. So I was like, let me see what this big controversy is. And so I go online and I'm looking it up, and I'm like, hey, this game is, and I was introduced to 2.4 at the time, or yeah, I think that was the version of it then. It was like $9. I was like, for $9, I'll spend $9 to learn something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so I bought it, and I was like, yeah, I could see where there was some, where you could have some issue with it, where you might, be able to see see through the hidden lines and everything like that. And yes, it was certainly an anti-Semitic, and it was certainly anti-other, anti-outsider, but the game mechanics itself, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. And I was like, it was a definite departure from Dungeons and Dragons that I was more familiar with, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna look at it academically and just the game mechanics and separate the author from separate the art from the artist kind of thing, I was like, this is not a bad game system, and so I started running it, and then I was just right back into the hobby again. So that was my reintroduction to the hobby, was a game system that I think you know uh, quite a few people put just like maybe a step above like Fatal. You know what I'm saying? It's like it is not a well respected author or a publisher, or and not a well-respected game system, even though it's actually dramatically better than when I was first, encountered it. But I'll let you chime in. Go ahead.
So I think the very first time I ever heard about Mifrog was when Pundit. It's an older video, but Pundit did a video kind of doing a quick review flip through of it
Mm-hmm.
on his channel, and it was one of those things where. And the funny thing is, the dude follows me on X, even though we are diametrically opposed to each other. With me being
Right.
having my Christian values, and him being like super like anti-Christian. I believe Norse. I believe he's of Norse faith, if that's the way to call it.
Oh, you mean VAR?
Var, yeah.
Yeah.
And we follow each other. I followed
Yeah.
him because everyone's talking like, "Oh, here's this bad man," and
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Okay, let me." And I followed him to see, and we've actually argued about the historical proof about behind Christianity existing or not.
Mm-hmm.
Those when I first saw him, that was an argument I had with him,
Yeah.
and but I'm always under the impression of like, hey, he's allowed to believe what he wants. If that's his belief, that's fine, even if I don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just interesting that even though he does not like I don't like him as a Christian, I'm perfectly fine with him being basically pagan. We can
Yeah.
still like follow each other, and he's reposted and liked a lot of my stuff too. And
Right.
the one game I need to get is I keep seeing good things about his Wii Conquest because I've somehow become now bro adjacent is how I put it, because all the bros are guys, because all because I did a live stream reading Jeff Rowe's How to Win D&D book, which then got taken down because the publisher reached out to me, unfortunately. But I got so much respect from the Brothers after that, and also I did an interview with Scudder for Mike as well, just asking questions about it and that such, which also kind of got me, I guess, some brownie points if you want to call it that. So while I'm not 100, I do not agree with everything BroSR does. I still find myself kind of weird, really towing that line between everything,
Yeah.
which is funny.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm very, very similar. I mean, Varg actually sent me a whole bunch of books, a whole bunch of different editions, including the first edition, signed and everything like that. And, Varg is definitely anti-American. I'm saying he does not like Americans whatsoever. But
He's German, isn't he?
no, he's Norwegian.
Norwegian, okay.
So, but even with that, when we're talking about gaming, we're talking about gaming, and we're, it's like I can look past all of that stuff. Again, I can separate what some people's beliefs are from what their gaming beliefs and understandings are. I can do that, and I don't have a problem with doing that. Now, of course, if there's something where someone has done something like truly egregious, instead of just having the wrong ideas, then that is a
Mm-hmm.
line I wouldn't cross. Harm a child in any way, no, you're dead to me. I'm not going to support you in the slightest bit. But so it's like, again, that's why I call this kind of like the guilty pleasures. And when there's a lot of game systems out there that get slammed on for a variety of reasons, and yes, there are some on the left as well, that are written by leftist authors, or they started going woke, let's say. Like, I'm a big fan of Modifius, and their CEO is very woke. All right. But it doesn't often bleed into the games, so it's like, all right, I can think you're a schmuck online, but your game systems don't reflect that. um Jeff D is another person that I've met in person. He's a raging liberal, and very, very like, don't buy my stuff, kind of attitude with him. And yet I've met him in person. Great conversations that we had without exposing our politics to one another, in any real degree. We kept it to gaming only. So there's a lot of, common ground potential that I think sometimes, people on both sides kind of miss out on in this hobby. If we just let's just stick to gaming, please. It would be
Yeah.
so much better.
And I'm trying to think, like, because that's the thing. I feel like it's always one side wants to be more like, hey, you don't belong here, more than the other side. Like, I am perfectly fine if you were to say, if someone was to walk up to my table wearing a whole ass furry outfit and
Mm,
just sat down and only focused on the game and nothing else, even though they're in costume, I'd be perfectly content with that because they're not trying to push their furriness onto the table. They're
right.
just wanting to play the game.
Yeah.
Like I've said this, because I've had to make this point repeatedly now because no one gets it, is when I'm not sitting at the table, I'm perfectly open with what I believe in and how I view things. But when I'm at the table and when I'm running a game, you're not going to hear any of that coming out of my mouth at all. Like, if you
Right.
watch my solo plays I've started doing now, you don't
Right.
hear politics coming out of my mouth.
No,
I'm just focused on the game.
yeah. Yeah, I couldn't tell you the politics of any of my players that I've been playing with now for almost 4 years. I couldn't tell you for certain whether they're married or not, if they're, what their sexual orientation is, what their religions are, what their political stances are on anything. It just doesn't come up at our table,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gaming with people from all over the country. All right, I've gamed with, because most of my gaming was because I really started coming back into it in like 15 and 16, but it was still online only. So once COVID hit and we were all forced online, that was a very easy transition for me to do. And I was playing with people from all over the world. All right. So I know you mentioned RPG Pundit, and he was talking, and I didn't watch that video yet, but there's always that debate between, are you getting the same amount out of being either in person or virtually, online, and they're both giving you an opportunity that the other does not. All right. And that's where I would stand on that. I was like, don't say, well, this one is better than that one. They're both giving something really important, I think. I'll let you
Yeah,
jump on
you're
that.
right. Yeah, but to kind of give some basis on how I came to get to know people like Benger and the Red Room and even Pundit was when I first got onto the space, I was basically just kind of just interacting with people. I wasn't really a known name at the time.
Right.
But what happened was another game I'm backed called Triangle Agency.
Mm-hmm.
I had backed that, and some of the people that had tried to cancel me in the past also were backers of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to the creators of the game and tried to say that I was a bad person, that I was dangerous for the space kind of deal. And they blocked me on X. They
Mm-hmm.
banned me from their Discord server. And when I tried to email them or message them, I would get no response from them because I'm trying
Right.
to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
So they eventually, I basically just said, okay, I don't understand what's going on. I'm tired of not being able because this is a point of I don't know, I can't think of the phrase for it, but a point I have when it comes to if you are backing a game, you're essentially paying that person to make this game.
Right.
So I believe it is your right as a backer of that game that that person should be responding to you if you have a message. Now, given not like immediately, but at least within the first 24 hours. I'm
Yeah.
very big at like you're a creator. You ask backers to give you money to make this game. You have some sense of duty to them, so you should be allowed access to them in a sense. Not like no, I'm need to get into like your personal life, whatever. But like, hey, we should be able to feel free to message you with questions and concerns whenever we feel like. And so they refunded me my pledge because I basically said either let me have access again or refund me my money, which they did. And then they
Right.
tried to make a post. They didn't mention me by name, but they make a post trying to say like, oh yada yada. This person, they said we found this person was a threat. We banned them from everything, refunded their money and all that. Then Nerdcognito reached out to me when this was
Right.
going on, and they asked me if I wanted to come on the show and share my side of the story. And I said, of course I would. I'd actually been listening to them for a while, and I think we were following each other, but we didn't really interact that much until then. They
Right.
also offered the creators of the game to come on the show. And then instead of saying yes, the creators of the game blocked them as well. They blocked their cognito.
Right.
So the only side that you got to hear was my side because they were too cowardly, basically, to want to
Right.
come on and
Yeah.
share what they had received because they said people reached out with evidence,
Yeah.
which I don't believe for a second.
Right. No,
And so,
that's something that they often will like. They will disengage, and then they will act like that they're on the higher ground, or like they said in your case, I don't want to give, I don't want to give his channel any oxygen. It's like I
yeah,
mentioned you by name, but it was like, or by your YouTube channel name. Um, but yeah, I don't want to give them oxygen. So it's like
yeah,
they refuse to engage, because they're, they don't want to find common ground. And I don't mean they as the, I'm talking about those very specific ones, but
mm,
I don't want to overgeneralize, but for the most part, those that I have encountered do not want to engage at all. And again, I think it's a shame that we can't just settle on let's just play the games, and that's it. Because I've even seen them like they attacked Troll Lord Games. When Troll Lord Games came out, and you probably remember this, this was on X, and Troll Lord Games was kind of correcting one of their writers who came out with a very political statement,
mm-hmm,
with Troll Lord next to his name and everything like that. And they said, hey, we're just about making good games. So, and then that creator came back on and apologized and said, I really enjoy working for Troll Lord Games. I didn't mean to bring any kind of backlash on them. And then Troll Lord Games put out a statement that says Troll Lord Games is about making good games and playing those games, and that's
mm-hmm,
it. We are apolitical, and they were attacked for being apolitical because apolitical is politics to that side of the, of the argument there. And it's like, oh, we have to try to, we have to try to ban them and do all kinds of stuff. Now, Trollord, thankfully, is a little bit too big to be banned like that, So, but it's a, it's like you can't even be apolitical without getting attacked, and that's the problem, that I see there. So, hey, Agile, thanks a lot for that. And let's see, people that have gained your generous gift. Marion, um, congratulations. Off-Grid. Off-Grid is one of my players. So Off-Grid, I'm sure, will be
I've
happy.
known Off-Grid for a while.
Yeah. He's one of my players in two of my games. He's in my CNC and my Shadow Rim game.
Yeah, I really need to start playing Shadow Rim. That's one of my favorite chubby games I've gotten.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Really enjoying that. Stellar Steven, sorry. Congrats. Steve, hey, congrats, Steve. And as always, thanks so much, Agile, for all of your support for this channel and and interaction with everybody on here too. So great to have you here, Christian, all the way from Germany. Welcome. So quite surprising to me how big the thing is. The whole politics thing seems to be abroad. Here in Germany, we simply just play the game and try to have as much fun as currently possible.
I have a really bad joke I could say about that, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut in that regard, with it being Germany and all.
Yeah. Well, the one thing with Germany, interesting enough, and Christian, you can correct me if that has changed in the time, but Germany does have some very strict rules or even laws about video games and video game violence and such. So that was something like back in the early 2000s. I was seeing like some games couldn't be sold there. The other thing that Germany is really about is or against is loot boxes, because it's considered online gambling. And that was another thing that was really, really crushed, was like some of those, like, I don't know if it was so much like World of Warcraft. I think Neverwinter was like the first one that really sparked that controversy over Neverwinter Nights, because it had loot boxes in there, and it was seen as a gambling scheme, right? You kept on paying real money for these boxes to get these, special little tchotchkes in there, and special game bonus, and they considered it gambling, and so it was barred from certain European countries. I'm pretty sure it was Germany as well. But Christian, you can correct me if I'm wrong about both of those things.
Yeah. So, kind of touching back, the point you brought up earlier was kind of getting back into D&D. What really got me started going the OSR direction actually was Red Room and Venger with Wretched and Schalt.
Yeah.
Because Venger, we talked on and off for a while, and even though I didn't agree with him on the whole shadow darkening of the hobby thing, I still love the dude. His work is great. Yeah. I own Schalt. I've backed so much of his stuff. And but funny enough, I ran Schalt using Shadow Dark, right. Of all things. I did like a mini campaign. It was like maybe 10 sessions, because then timing just got ahead of everyone. It was only for like me and like 2 other players. It wasn't like a big group or anything. And then I did it was a Wretched game. I forget what module it was, but you can actually see. I think it was like the second episode of that series. I came in late on it, but they let me play live with them for a while. And now, I've also been publicly open about this, even with Miguel and Sylvia, and I think they respected me a lot more because I was so honest about it. I am not the biggest fan of the Wretched RPG as the system itself, just because of how complex and how much they kind of put in, which is, it's both a blessing and a curse at the same time. So that's why I was really kind of excited when they did Red, because Red was more that simplistic or rules-light kind of vibe that I prefer in a lot of games. And that's why I like Shadow Dark. It's, heck, even OSC, Old School Essentials, to me is more rules light and simplistic in comparison to like other games that are out here.
Yeah. I mean, I've liked a lot of their stuff. I have quite a bit of, quite a few of their things. I know I was going to specifically bring up Wretched Space. I wanted to give an example of each of the games that I was going to talk about. So I will do a little bit of that. So yeah, Wretched Space. So this is the Red Room,
Hmm.
and they had quite a few controversies with their stuff. They were booted from Drive Through RPG for pointing out that they were being unfairly treated with some of their stuff, and their stuff was certainly not as edgy as it was you know as was being lodged against them. Let's say um, Chalt, which you mentioned as well, and I have everything from virtually everything that Venture Satanis has published. I have. I mean, I absolutely love his style of writing and art, and just the way he puts things together. Love the game system. The Crimson Dragon Slayer. So love that stuff. Men is what got them banned. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember buying this
Yeah,
because as soon as I figured this was a game, I'm like, I was going to get
yeah,
this, and I meant to.
yes.
I wanted to
Men is
do
the one that
during men's.
triggered it. Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, that was certainly the one there. But I mean, even things like Lamentations of the Flame Princess is another one that every once in a while James Ragg will get attacked, and they'll try to blacklist him and ban him from various things and everything, and he's too big to ban. His stuff is just too much on the forefront, and too forward as far as doing something really unique and different that they can't touch them.
yeah.
But go ahead.
Now, yeah, it's because you brought up James Raggy when we were talking about like people were talking about, and I had currently have a love-hate relationship with James Raggy because I don't know if you saw about a month or so ago. No, this was like back in May actually. Someone started sharing around a picture. It was James Raggy going through the airport, and it was a picture of Donald Trump like naked and touching himself, and on the
Mhm.
back of it says like Donald is a see you next Tuesday.
Right.
And so in order to make sure that this wasn't something that someone just doctored, I went and actually found the image on self. He posted on his Facebook.
Right.
And my issue with that was, again, you're free to say and you're free to say and feel however you want, have whatever opinion you want. The problem with this is he's already picked on by the left enough. Now he's wanting the right to pick on him for some reason, which makes no sense to me.
Right.
It's like it doesn't make sense to go out. It doesn't make sense to try to go after the fans that are mostly
Yeah.
buying your stuff. Because let's be honest, there's not that many liberals buying your stuff. It's buddies like Lord Mattias who are mostly right leaning conservatives that
Right.
praise Lamentations of Frame Flips like
Yeah.
crazy. Like it was because of Lord Mattias that is why I originally was about to get interested in it. But after seeing that kind of just rubbed me off the wrong way. And
Right.
my value I've always stood for is vote with your wallets.
Yeah.
So he's allowed to sell whatever game. He's allowed to
Yeah.
sell as many games as he wants. Best of luck to James Raggy. He's not getting a dime from me though. Now after that,
Yeah. I know. Is he also Orosor Dwarf Reggie has mental issues? Yeah, and he very much may. He might be just like so out there in his approach to things and his thought patterns and everything that I mean, that really is what an edgelord is, right? Is somebody who
yeah,
is just going to go out there and just hey, I'm going to go this direction, and you love me, hate me, it doesn't make a difference to me. I'm saying it anyway. I have a very similar um, not really so much a relationship. I don't even know if he still follows me. We kind of like stopped following each other, or interacting very much with each other. But that was Grim Jim. All right. Now I'm going to show up one of his more controversial, tabletop role playing games. Was that he converted the Gore series
mm-hmm.
into tabletops, and talk about authors that are really disliked by modern readers today, and that's certainly one of them, and so he and I, game wise, are really close together. I just love his stuff. You know, right? And I have a lot of his things. But politics wise, I think that he's a total lunatic. You
So
know, and it's like you know, with just his, you know, his total take on it. I know some of it is just the differences between what what American definitions of liberal and conservative is compared to European is like they're totally different things as well. But yeah, he's just way too left wing and Marxist, you know, for my taste there. But I can still appreciate his game design. Um, but I'll
so
let you jump back in.
yeah, so again, it's also kind of a weird love hate relationship with Grim Jim too. Because when I
Yeah,
first was getting it, like I noticed he's not as like either I meant or just not seen anymore. Like I did not like any of his political leanings because when it's politics, yeah, me and him were like this. But yet I'm on T-shirt historians usually Tuesday and Saturday streams most often. Grim Jim's also on that too. And when we're talking games and movies and stuff, we get along perfectly fine. Like the running joke that happened was because there's sometimes I can say like sometimes I'll end up saying the most out of pocket things. So Grim Jim made a AI song that goes Hunter ruins everything from A to F and Z. And if I ever say anything out of pocket, they play that song. But I love it so much just because it means like, oh Grim, you admire me a little bit, kind of
yeah,
just a fun little thing. So I don't despise the guy. And I own
yeah,
Whitechester too. He makes good stuff. It's one of those things where it's like I respect him as like a creator, not so
yeah,
much for his own personal political
yeah.
opinions.
Um, yeah, I there's no one that I would describe as my, you know, hatred of them. Very few. Where I'd be like, no, by this person, I will not extend an olive branch. I mean, there's one that I tried, you know, and he basically mocked it and whatever. So I was like, never again will I even try to reach out to that person again. That's what prompted me to come into this. You know, whole thing was, you know, that individual. I met him in person, you know, and you know, Dave Simpson Gamers on Games was truly an asshole in person, you
I
know, and it
think,
was like that was just a okay, you know, the affirmation, you know, of what I already expected was certainly there.
yeah. Now, I think I may have seen gamers on game stuff. I think like one time, like long ago, and I just paid it no mind
Yeah,
because I just didn't agree with it. But then you shared me that video because at first you shared the video with me. I'm thinking, oh, this is someone like maybe like talking about like how cool I am or whatever. That's
yeah,
what I thought it was originally. And then
yeah,
I saw the video title. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be interesting.
yeah,
And I started watching the video, and I was laughing the whole time throughout the
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Because
And
he's so
so
unhinged. He's so unhinged that you just
yeah,
laugh at some of it too. It's like it's almost entertainment to. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
you're fine. And I tried to comment on the video, but either he has it set up to where I can't comment on his videos, or it's just YouTube being YouTube again. So what I ended up doing was I made comments on his posts because those stayed up and they're still there.
Right.
Just comments made his posts. So, but I was actually being, I was basically like, I'm so sorry that you're so full of like this hatred in your heart that you think that you have to make up something, Tumblr word like alt right to describe someone who disagrees with you. But
Mm,
I said what was funny was I said, I thank you for the shout out. If, and it's like, if you want to ever come on my stream sometime, I would be more than happy to have you on because I don't care if you have different opinions from me. I'm willing to have other people on my show like that. And then when I got 100 subscribers, I said, "Thank you so much for giving me 100 subscribers. I'll be making a video about you to thank you for it soon."
yeah. 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 And it's like, I know this will get back to them, you know, it certainly will, because someone will be like, hey, they were talking about you. Hey, you drove up the numbers of this person that, you know, and you tried your best not to do that. And I'm glad that, you know, we're able to do that. So let's see. Let's get to some more comments here. Uh, I want you to know, Hunter, I signed on for your channel due to Richard's recommendation. Yeah, yeah, he was one of the first ones because I put it in my community post, and I was like, hey, and yeah, Agile was one of the first ones on there that said, hey, let's get this done. and so I thank everybody that came to that community post to find you there, and and we will try to bring people to the other YouTube channel that was originally what he was talking about. Gamers on Game was originally talking about to begin with, which I didn't know at the time. So yeah, definitely do the same there as well, if he has one.
Yeah, I think it's I'll have to find it. It's I think Jack McCarthy is his name, but he does a show every Monday called John with Jack, where he's had me on because you may not know this, but actually when Red Room had a game jam about last year, I
Yeah.
created a supplement for the game
Oh
called
yeah, yeah,
Wretched Dixie, which
yeah.
is a basically how to run a Civil War campaign using the system. And
Oh, cool.
so Jack had me on just talking about that, and I'm actually because my buddy Runeforge that I was mentioning before, I think either on the show or before we got on the show, he actually created a Shadow Dark template that you can now use to make it through Google Docs. So now that I have that available, because I can't afford Affinity and all that, I absolutely am sick and tired of everything being a subscription service now. It is ridiculous out here, especially
Yeah,
when you're, well, I like to say, living in a van down by the river, as I like to quote all the time.
yeah,
And so I'm actually going to read. I'm actually going to make a version of that. It's going to be Dixie Dark. So it's going to be how to play Civil War using Shadow Dark now. Is what I'm going to start
that's
working on next.
yeah, and going back to that, the shadow darkening. I remember when that first came out, and I had Venger on to talk about that, comment, and he was like, because he's often taken out of like context, or maybe he just doesn't describe it as well, but he certainly wasn't attacking Shadow Dark. He was just, I think, looking at how much it was just exploding. And so that
Mm-hmm.
was what he was really talking about. And he didn't mean to be like it to be taken in a real negative way, because he had just met Kelsey Dion at a convention, there, and I mean, if you've never met any, like, if you want to meet one of the nicest people in this hobby, Kelsey Dion is the one to meet. I mean,
I'm
she is very, very gracious, and you know,
yeah,
um, genuinely is excited about meeting people, and and not just the fact that she knew who I was when I first met her, and she was like, "DM Bloodworth, I know
oh,
you," and we
wow.
started talking right away, and I was like, blew my mind, but that's something that, well, in our hobby, some of us are looking for others to be successful as well. And I wish more of us would be doing that, and saying, like, I want everyone to be successful. I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I think that there's room enough for everybody to have fun and be successful and have great experiences at the table. And that is something that I always try to promote as much as I can as well. So yeah, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of great people out there, and I aspire to be better, in some ways, sometimes, certainly in person, I aspire to be
Yeah.
a much better person than sometimes my online uh, craziness allows. So
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I actually, before I was really following a lot of other people, one of the people I did follow for like the longest time was Diversity and Dragons. And
yes,
I've been on his channel a couple times just talking about different things, whatever he has a lot of people on. And I've loved his stuff. And he's always had high praise for Kelsey, just talking about how her mannerisms as a person and how she interacts with people. And he said good things. While he admits Shadow Dark is not his go-to game, he does like Shadow Dark as a game for what it
oh yeah,
is.
yeah, and I
So
met him in person too, and yeah, he was a great guy. He and his wife, and I met uh, Greg Gillespie in person. I mean, virtually everybody that I meet in person, with that exception of one, has been, it was really nice meeting them. I mean, I met J. Scott Garibay in person, and
Scarabay.
as much as we have locked horns and disagreed with, and gone back and forth with him banning me here or there, and everything. When we finally met in person, it was a pleasant conversation, but once we get back onto the internet and everything, he just can't handle my pointing out discrepancies or whatever, and he bans me again. But um, there's, like I said, very few people that I would completely close the door to,
Hmm.
and not have an in-person conversation with, to try to kind of extend that kind of a, hey, we're in person, let's see if there's any common ground. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's funny because I was just thinking about because there's a very well known, well, not really well known, like popular per se, but he's a name that gets floated around. The one that is known as Condor DM,
Yeah.
that kind of gets the bite from both ends of the apple, basically.
Yeah.
Uh, it's funny because I don't agree. Again, I don't agree with a lot of stuff he says, but I found some parts which I would see a video and a clip of something he says, and be like, I can agree with that. Like there was some stuff he said about Shadow Dark, and then he was like, he defended at one point Harmony Ginger before he like bashed her for some reason.
Mhm.
So like, because I love Harmony Ginger, she's great to talk to. I've talked to her behind the scenes a couple times. It's like, and she's offered me that like to have her come on. She's offered to come on my show whenever I got the time. So I need to just actually do that. I just haven't jumped the gun on it yet. But Steven Saunders, or Condor DM as everyone knows him, he blocked me on X earlier, and he had never done that before. So I would
Yeah.
have been like, if he ever wanted to come on, like I'd be perfectly fine with having him on. I mean,
Yeah.
is he? It's weird because it's like it, because of how weird like Jeff Johnson is himself. Because Jeff Johnson, I just find him to be weird more than anything, but weird in a haha funny way.
Yeah.
And he even follows me too. Condor's kind of like the weird on the opposite end of that, where it's like kind of deal.
Hmm. Yeah. It's again. I've tried. I've tried to. I tried reviewing his game, and I went through, and I had some positives and some negatives about it. And the negatives were not extreme. It was just like,
Hmm.
oh, this is like formatting kind of things or whatnot, or I didn't quite understand something that wasn't laid out right. And oh my gosh, did he attack me for? He never watched the video.
I heard.
He just attacked me for for something that happened in the past, and I'm like, look, I'm not even going to bother trying to reach out anymore. Now, if he's not blocked on my channel, like anyone can come into my channel. I have very, very few people blocked on my channel, probably less than 5 people blocked on my channel. And almost every one of those were people who either like one attacked the appearance of one of my players. And
Yeah.
I was like, why? Especially since it was one of my female players, and I was like, no, I'm not going to let you sit there and attack a woman, on my channel. And so I removed it and blocked the person. Another one was, you're in the U.S. Army, they're all baby killers kind of thing, that kind of thing. And I was like, not blocked,
Yeah.
I won't deal with, Antifa types on my channel, blocked, so it's like, and I wasn't even a police officer. I wasn't a military police, but I wasn't a police officer in, in private practice. I was a school teacher in private practice. So I was like, nah, I'm not going to even accept that either. So, but literally, not more than 5 or 6 are total blocked on my channel. My channel's not, into its 9th year. So it's like I really do. Now I used to say my blockers are legion, right? I'm probably blocked on 100 different places, but I don't go back like that way on them. So let's see. I know there was a nice compliment there, so thank you very much, Marion, for that. I won't put it up there, but I try to be a good guy
Hmm.
when running my games. I've never had a problem at my table, really, to be honest with you. It's just, I let people play. It's like that's it, I let people play. Um, Yeah, his response to my video was unhinged. Yes, absolutely unhinged. Uh, yeah, Jay Scott is again much more down to
Yeah.
earth in person than he is on his channel. I think he just gets too wound up on his channel, doing his little videos.
Mm. I have had yet to encounter J. Scott Garibay in any of my social media
Yeah,
experience
yeah.
currently. The only time I've ever seen him is when Double D does reviews one of his videos for his Wednesday night stream. It's the only time I ever encountered J. Scott
Yeah,
Garibay in
no,
anything.
like I said, in person, I met him at PAX, PAX 2 this past January. Even invited him to play in my game. He played in my game. We played in another game together, and he was fine. He was perfectly fine until he started critiquing the way I ran my game afterwards, and it was just
Mm,
I was like, you just don't understand the way that a convention game is run, and that's
mhm,
where the whole disagreement was that he just didn't understand that it's a totally different concept when you're playing in a convention game. People aren't that distraught over their characters dying in a convention game. They expect it, and that was something that came up.
mm.
Let's get right back to our topic now.
Yeah.
Um, So let's get back. So some other
Yep.
games that have come up is, of course, Alexander Macris always comes up in these kind of discussions, and we have Acts 2 here as well, and another game system that I highly recommend. And he's a great guy. I've had him on my channel, and he's super super intelligent, really good writer, and like a world builder and everything like that. And the game system is just phenomenal. Now, some will argue, like I argue, that the game is really geared towards domain play, and I don't mean that there isn't lower level play, but the game is really geared towards domain play. And some disagree with me, and that's fine. Uh,
Yeah.
but uh, but that's another game system that oftentimes comes up, or another publisher creator that is often thrown into that. Well, he's conservative, and so we have to attack him, and we have to try to get him banned from whatever.
I got I got nothing but respect for McCreese, right? That's his
Yeah,
name, because
I
I
say
always refer to him
Macros.
as
I
the
think
axe
it's
guy. So
Macros. Yeah,
yeah, and so my problem, like, so everyone talks nothing, but I've heard nothing but good things about Axe Two. My thing was, because again, I'm more rules line simplistic. So when I hear that this game is like 3 books, totaling up to like 1,400 pages,
yeah,
that puts me on edge a little bit.
yeah,
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the first version of Axe
yeah.
and look through that first before I feel like would this be
Right.
something that I would see myself playing over and over again?
Mhm.
Because I don't want to, as much as I would love to support him, I don't want to spend all that money on a game I'm not going to necessarily be able to play constantly. And I have nothing against domain play. Horde Wars, which I currently play quite constantly, it has domain play in that. And I ran that at my first convention I attended to a couple months back as well. Because Todd was telling me earlier that you and him were talking about that privately at one point. He was telling you about me running Horde Wars at my local
Yeah,
convention,
yeah,
which was
yeah. That's and hopefully we can cross paths at a convention, and
yeah.
and play. Well, Venger's running a virtual VengerCon, so
Which I
it's in
told him I would do a
January.
couple
So
virtual games for that. So
yeah, yeah,
because I can't afford to drive all the way to Wisconsin or wherever it is that he
yeah,
likes to
yeah.
hold it at the
Madison,
moment. So
Wisconsin. I checked. It's like 15-hour drive for me, and I was like, nah,
yeah,
can't do it. Um,
but yeah, just trying to get back on topic a little bit. So like, because I brought this up earlier before, like I don't consider people like uh Mr. Axe. I already forgot his name already. I don't know McCreese
yeah.
in the Red Room and Venger. I don't consider them to be edge lords compared to like
Well,
James Braggy or Garibay. It's not really because
no,
that
no.
of their
Like,
opinions. It's because of
well, they
they're
they
not
push
like
they do push the envelope. Like all like Venger definitely pushes the envelope sometimes. He doesn't mind poking the bear. The Red
Yeah.
Room definitely poked the bear with men. Are
Yeah,
in
but
the
here's the
RPG.
here's the thing that in regards to that though, and this ties into why I am the way I am now. It's because other people have pushed us to that point. Because what I've been saying is, if it was not for people trying to shove their own ideologies, doesn't matter left or right. I'm very much middle ground, whereas I don't want anyone's politics in a game unless it's somehow tied to that game itself. Which I
Right.
actually did a whole review about this most leftist RPG that I ended up backing because I had to have a book to be like, someone made this crap, basically. And I did a whole review with my friend, the Wicked Conservative, about it. Like, and see, even that's the point. I could be a Christian and have a Wiccan on my show, and we can get
Mhm.
along and talk about games just fine, and whatever we can agree or disagree on stuff. But it's the fact that is, if people weren't trying to push ideologies into the games, there wouldn't be people like me, Red Room, or Avenger to begin with. We wouldn't be as upfront and pushing the envelope as we are now.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm looking at OSR Dwarf's comment here, and for sometimes they do have an online persona, and I think everybody has somewhat of an online persona. You're not exactly the way you are online as you are in person.
Now,
Um,
for me personally, how I'm talking to you right now. It's not going to be any different if you meet me in person.
right.
Like, I am who I am on the line and offline. Like, to me, it never made sense that you had to have like this other persona when you're on a camera versus when you're not on screen. It's like I prefer to be 100%. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. And if you meet me in person, it's going to be the exact same way. You're not going to get anything different out of me.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you might be more you might be more willing to confront, let's say, online than you might be in person. Like when I say like Venger has a persona, all
Hmm.
right. I mean, when you see that he's a family man and this and that and everything like that, you can see it in his own videos. Like he's a totally different person when interacting and talking about his family and everything than when he's talking about gaming. And I don't mean game design. I mean just like the game, gaming community kind of issues and stuff like that. Yeah, I still everyone is just at the very least slightly different, online than in person. Because again, it's like the Robert E. Howard quote, which I'm not going to come off the top of my head, was like, you know, barbarism is better than the civilized man because the civilized man can be impolite and not expect to get clubbed over the head. Something along those lines. When a barbarian is going to be much more polite because they do expect to get clubbed over the head if they get out of line. So it's just a thing. I just saw a thing. He has mellowed out over time too, and that's for certain that he has mellowed out over these last couple of years.
I thought he was still on YouTube because I figured he left for a little bit, but then he's come back because I know he's still. I saw he posted like a new video like not too long ago or
Yeah,
something.
no, he's back on YouTube. He said very briefly that he was going to stop publishing or whatever, but he's back to publishing. I mean, he's one of the more you can stand by his word that he's going to get his Kickstarters completed. I think he's only failed on one Kickstarter. And I think that when he failed on that Kickstarter, it took a lot out of him. He was like, you know what? I can't afford to, keep on investing this kind of time if that. Unfortunately, it was just the one that fell through. And he's followed that up with like two or three successful Kickstarters since then.
I've
So
backed all those Kickstarters as well
yeah,
myself.
it,
So
so I think that took a lot out of him, when that particular one failed. And but he's back into doing the stuff. And I think that the virtual con is a good step forward as well, in getting more more people just exposed to, because you're going to see different types of games run at VentureCon that you might not see anywhere else. So that's a really good thing to see that spreading out as well. Yeah, I know a lot of people are saying they always get his Kickstarters, and I do as well. I have virtually everything. Once I get to my shelf tour and I start hitting that particular shelf, you're going to see all the stuff that I have from him and Red Room and and some of those other ones are RPG Pundit and whatnot. So I have a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, my ear trumpet has been struck by lightning. Good to see you. No, he hasn't left YouTube. He's still. He recently did a video just yesterday.
I think it was yesterday or earlier, sometime today, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday or today, he put out something there. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet.
Now, we keep on bringing RPG Pundit up, and that's actually something I also want to touch on too, because while I do own and I love a lot of his stuff, recently he's become the old man yells at cloud meme from The Simpsons, in my opinion, because one thing I disagree with him immensely on is the idea of story games, because if you look at it technically, all TTRPGs are story games by default. They're just all played differently depending on how you do it. That's how I kind of look at it overall. So the idea that because you don't be, so that he's kind of like, he's very much, the only way to put it, he's very autistic about story games and the hobby and how he doesn't like them, or he doesn't have like now I'm hearing about this thing called Story Now gaming, which is this weird.
Didn't RPG Pundit coin that, or I think RPG Pundit just spoke about that.
I don't know. I still get people. I've tried to have people explain it to me, and I still don't understand it. Like, again, I understand Power of the Apocalypse games are not everyone's cup of tea, and those are usually what they refer to story games. That is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But you also have to look at how, because even if you're not playing it like that way, you're still telling some story with your dice and with your game mechanics. So how, by my definition, by default and technicality, all RPGs are story games.
Yeah, I've heard about Savage Swords.
I own that one too.
Yeah. It's too big of a book.
Yeah, it is a big book. Yeah, like I just had the PDF, so
yeah, it's too big of a book. And I like to have physicals so that I can actually dig through it. But when you have a single, I mean, yes, it's a single volume, but what is it, like 700 pages?
It's the joy of it's all setting, and I remember when that came out and I saw that, I literally went to the Discord and told them, you couldn't have made this 2 separate books.
Yeah, it's like I'd rather just see the mechanics. I know plenty of Savage Sword of Conan, setting and everything like that. Actually, starting in September, I'm going to actually be reading Savage Swords of Conan on the channel for Sumerian September. All right, so that's something that I was planning on doing anyway. So, but yeah, it's just I'm running out of shelf space again, and I got to wait for probably about 10 more books of Troll Lord game stuff coming to me from those couple of Kickstarters, and then I'm going to have to reassess and become much more selective again. But anyway, it has value for money. Yes, I'm sure it does at that size and everything.
Yeah, I mean, no one says that doesn't have value, and this is also the issue I have with the Dragon Slayer RPG by Gillespie. Is I'm sure it's a great book. I can't afford $80 for just another retro clone.
Oh no, it wasn't. Well, I got it for $50, but I got it at convention.
If you get the POD version on drive-through, the main book, not the monochrome one, it's $80, and I think the other one's like $60, which is still almost out of my price range.
Yeah.
To get a book when I have Shadow Dark, I have Old School Essentials. My current one I've been playing it's a 0E science fantasy retro clone called Barrows in Borderlands. And my buddy Foxoff was talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
And that's been one of my favorite ones I've been playing so far.
Yeah, no, I was watching, you have some videos on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was definitely checking that out. Micro Red rule sets now.
Yeah, a lot of the newer, they're basically redoing a lot of their old Wretched books and releasing them as micro red uh,
Mhm.
setting books. So it has like a micro version of the red rules mixed in with that book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So DCC, MCC, yeah. So like all of these games, from time to time, um, have been attacked. And that's the
yeah.
crazy thing, right? And you know, from the right as well, because they attack DCC and they're like, "Hey, Goodman Games is going woke and blah blah blah," and all of this too. And it's like, you can't put you can't put DCC aside. I'm sorry. It's just like, as woke as they might have come on this point or that point, the game system is just a phenomenal game system. And again, um, you can't take away
Yeah.
from the brilliance
So
of that game system.
yeah, so since we're talking about games being attacked, and we're talking about edge lords. Maybe you might be able to shine some light on something I've been hearing about recently.
Hmm.
Because in the campaign world that I played in the Barrels of Borderlands server on,
Hmm.
now what's funny is the guy's only 26, but he plays all these old school games. Part of the world is that there's portals that connect to other worlds, aka other games. One of those games is actually one I recently got, is Empire of the Petal Throne.
Right.
And apparently, from what a lot of people are saying, Empire of the Pale Throne, the guy who made it had like some Nazi ties or something.
Well, not. He said some anti-Semitic things. So again, it was. Again, it's holding. Because that book was written what in 75.
Hold on. I got it right up
Originally
here.
that 75, 74, 75. Yeah. So when was it originally written?
Let me see here. This says, well, this says copyright 2017 because this is oh no, here we go. 19 Tactical Study Rules in 1975.
All right. So I used to use this, and I don't know if I've seen it before, but I use the term chronocentrism. All right, which basically means it's just like ethnocentrism, and in the social sciences and everything. If you were a history teacher, which I was, and we would say, it's not an accurate judgment to look at another culture through your lens. All right, and so I use the same thing with chronocentrism, right? When you're looking at people, and actually it's like ties right in, right? Here are like my two favorite authors, right? Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft. And
Yeah,
if we're looking at those two authors through our lens today, that's where people go, oh, they were racist, they were xenophobic, they were this, they were that, you know, they were writing in the 1920s. It was like they were born in the late 1890s. They were, or 1900. They were products of their time, and to expect that they are going to have the same view as we may hold today is just an unfair lens that you're looking at them through. It's like, and even when you look at like someone like H.P. Lovecraft, he evolved during his lifetime, right? So yeah, he might have been very xenophobic and anti-Semitic and everything, and yet he ends up marrying a Jewish woman. So apparently he had outgrown some of that stuff and some of those ideas, and became he was truly xenophobic, but in a mental way he was xenophobic, not in a personality, like, what I'm saying, like he was genuinely xenophobic, like a mental condition, and not just oh well, we're going to label him xenophobic because that was his choice. It was just the way his mind was developed or whatever.
yeah. Like,
um
it drives me nuts when people constantly crap on Gary Gygax. Now, given I don't have what I call the fanaticism for D&D, as a lot of people do, mostly because that wasn't what I came up
right.
on. Like I've played like versions of D&D for sure,
Mhm.
but I've only played the one D&D campaign. It was 5e, and my buddy Magic Man, who you can see him floating around on Discord and X sometimes. He does his own like he does a lot of like wargaming creation stuff now. Is what he's gone to. He did a conversion of Horror of the Orient Express for Call of Cthulhu, but ran it with D&D. And that was the one time I actually played in a 5th edition game. But it basically comes back to the saying, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Gary Gygax brought something that forever changed this hobby,
Mhm.
objectively maybe for the better. And now, and everyone loved Gary Gygax because, and then also Dave Arneson. I have to make sure I remember Dave Arneson too,
Mhm.
because Dave Arneson was a big inspiration for this hobby as well. And people want to constantly crap on them, and then you have all the people that come up that grew up on this. You're crapping on them just the same by doing that.
Right.
So, and it's also that I could care less about what some old people from years before my time cared or thought about because we're now in this new age. Like, yeah, we don't have to, again, we don't have to agree, but
Mhm.
that doesn't take away from what they made.
Right. You know, you can separate the artist from the art. You can acknowledge that well, they had a very different, perspective based on their understandings of the world, and you have to give them some leeway and potentially capacity if they live long enough to learn that hey, maybe I was wrong, maybe there's a different way of looking at this, or you know we might get around to the point where we're looking at it and we're saying actually they were probably more right than we thought they were. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like not all old views were wrong views. Well, and that's where you get the chronocentrism again. It's like, oh, you know what? That wasn't, just because it was older than me, um, it couldn't have been as good as what we have now. Um, I mean, it's just, movies were far better
Like,
than they are today. You know what I'm
it's,
saying? It's
yeah.
like,
Like, I love Blazing Saddles. It's one of my all time favorite
mhm,
movies. And the Barrels of Borderlands Discord server, we watch a lot of old movies. We recently watched the Yellowbeard movie, which is like
right,
this 80s pirate spoof.
mhm,
And yeah, it was basically it was a pirate version of Blazing Saddles, is what Yellowbeard
right,
was.
yeah,
I was so blown away by it, and I've actually been trying to like watch these older movies because when I was on, it's funny because how it started was when I was on the T-shirt historian stream one night. I admitted I had never seen any of the Predator movies, just never grew up
right,
watching them because my parents were very strong conservative Christians, so they were very careful about what we watched and listened to. So I didn't watch any of those movies growing up.
right,
But I recently, like another one I watched Kroll like several weeks ago, and I
yeah.
actually thoroughly enjoyed that movie. It was good for what it was.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and it's just again, it's a you can appreciate
Hmm.
that you're going to have differences in view and in an acceptance and whatnot. Um, you know, when you're crossing or when you're spanning over time. You know what I'm saying? It's like like I said earlier, it's an unfair lens to look at a different culture, through your lens. Now you can recognize differences, but you should also appreciate the fact that your lens might not be 100% accurate. You might be seeing it through your own bias, and so you could be wrong in
Hmm.
how you're seeing something. And again, I think that's why I say like finding that common ground, and the easiest way to find the common ground is to just get focused on the game. Then you don't have to worry about all that other stuff. I mean, it's meant to be escapism. It's meant to be, hey, you know what? Whatever's going on, during my Monday through Friday, when it comes time for a Tuesday night's game, or Saturday night's game, I can forget about all of that other stuff and I can just relax and play a game with a group of my friends. And, we're not going to bring up any of this other stuff that's going on in our life. We're going to talk about what is my elf looking to do? What is my halfling looking to do? Or what is my space marine looking to do? During this time frame that for this 3 hours that we're forgetting about everything else and just
Mhm.
focusing on this. And the hobby would be much better if more and more people could just do that and just say, I don't give a shit about real world politics or, you know, what is going on in my life or whatever. I just want to sit down and, forget about all that stuff and just play. Um, so yeah, let me get to some of these things. There are a lot of artists like that I'm diametrically opposed politically and or philosophically. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, there will be a line where you said, no matter what, I'm not crossing that. You know,
Mhm.
um, you know, I'm not buying a piece of John Wayne Gacy's art. As good of an artist as he might have been, I'm not gonna. Oh, look what I just purchased. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, he was. A deplorable. I wouldn't even call him a human being. He was a monster, and it's just better if you're familiar. I don't know if you're familiar with who John
Mhm.
Wayne Gacy is, but
I'm familiar.
if anyone is not familiar, he was a serial killer. Killed a lot of children, and like I said, used to dress up like a clown, and he was an artist. He was a painter, and uh, and his paintings had quality to them,
I mean,
that you know, but we wouldn't buy his art. It's like there I couldn't separate.
women flaunted themselves over Ted Bundy.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He was a good-looking guy, and he was very suave and well-spoken, and blah 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 blah. And you know, his big mistake was he tried to kill Peter Lorre's daughter. All right.
I I'm not familiar with the whole history.
Yeah, yeah, that was his big mistake was he went outside of what his normal victims were, and then all of a sudden all of I guess it was LA or whatever, the LAPD just went hog wild trying to get him. But I could be no, I think I'm pretty sure it was Peter Lorre's daughter. If you're not familiar with Peter Lorre, you know, uh, famous actor from back in the early horror days. So anyway, let's see: games, movies, television, sports, etc. Keep the real world politics out of those things. Yes, absolutely. Um,
Yeah, that was the other big thing was when they started doing it in sports with Kaepernick kneeling on the field.
yeah,
That was kind of signaling a very much downfall of the sports industry for the most part. And then with even the current stuff we see with the end with the WNBA as well, even though it's a comedy show now with some of the recent stuff that's been going on with that.
yeah, yeah. See, I wouldn't buy Hunter's art either for the same reasons.
I cannot draw worth crap to save my life. So, and that's another thing that I get a lot of hate for was I'm very much pro AI for mainly for independence to use to save
Yeah,
their pocketbooks. So I never had an issue with Red Room using AI. It's just a couple doing what they care about, and it saves them money. So I'm perfectly okay with that. Heck, I would be perfectly okay with corporations doing it too, as long as they were open about it. Because the
yeah,
only reason that WotC got the crap they did for using AI was because they tried to hide it that it was
yeah.
AI.
They lied about it. They're like, "Oh
Yeah,
no, it's not AI." I was like, "No, no, it is. 6 fingers on one hand, usually a good sign." It's like, um, yeah. I still have not really gone back to the NFL either. Going back to what was that 2017?
start,
So it's
yeah, something
yeah,
like that maybe.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's around when I stopped. It also helps that the Giants have sucked ever since then. Ever since they, Eli retired.
we were always Chiefs fans in my family, so
Yeah. Um, let's see. AI art is only a threat to the mediocre.
that's what I
Um,
say too. Only those that are really insecure about their work are threatened by AI art. Because, like
yeah,
I said, people like Patty's Parlor, Basic Expert, and other good artists that I can't even think of them all off the top of my head. I know Red Room has a few artists that they've actually hired in the past to do some of their stuff on. So I think it was like Jay Hill, who does all that Shadow Dark and OSC stuff,
Hmm.
has done it. Rob Necronom, who does like who puts stock out on Dread RPG, they'll still get work because they're
Yeah,
good artists and they're good at what
yeah,
they do.
yeah. Who is it? Joey Dossel does a lot of stuff. He does a lot of Shadow Dark stuff too with
Uh,
Tom Wilson.
yeah,
Um,
the artist who does Savo, who's the creator of Fipo the Little Elf, it's
mhm.
like she's done a lot of work for Troll Lord Games.
Yeah, yeah. No, there are still some companies out there that refuse to use it, and I give them all the credit. They're like, oh no, we'll always use this. We're not using. I have more of a problem, to be honest with you, with AI writing than I do AI art.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, 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 no. At least write your own shit. I mean, please. But for the most part, um, yeah, small companies like that, if you're going to use AI, like I've done a few things on drive-through, and I've used archived art, because I tend to, it's like if I'm doing something that is based on um, Nordic mythology, well, there's plenty of free art out there. And then
yeah.
I did a gangbusters thing, and I used archived pictures from the time period to do it. I was like, oh, you see that all of this stuff is just open, fair use, kind of stuff. It was, it was an archived footage and pictures and whatnot. If I were to do something like if I were to write for like Shadow Rim and everything, I would go in and I would fire up Skyrim and take screenshots, because every one of those screenshots are yours. You know what I'm saying? It's like you really cannot, every single frame is a unique frame. Um, and so you can get away with that, and it's not as, now I would never print that kind of thing out because it would be so ink intensive that it just doesn't work. But anyway, it's yeah, I have much more leeway um, for AI art over for small companies. There's no accept. I will not accept a large company using AI art. No reason to hire an artist. You know, and but writing, no one should be using writing.
Yeah. So the art that's in my Richard Dixie supplement I have, that's all public domain art from the
Mhm.
like Civil War timeline. So that's all public domain. I think for the cover, Miguel tweaked a little bit because he did
Yeah.
all that. He did all the formatting and design, and
Yeah.
I came up with all the. I typed everything. It's only like 15 pages because I
Yeah.
didn't want it to be a big thing, but I typed all that up myself, and then I had my buddy Patty Parlor, actually, I had him go through it and give me some like pointers and edits and stuff because I wanted some other eyes on it besides my own. And then because we brought up Skyrim a couple times, I remember when I got into video gaming at one point when I was younger. When Skyrim came out, that was like my go-to video game, and I put so many hours into that. And I didn't at the time. I didn't have like all the DLCs and stuff.
Right.
But a while back, a couple years ago, I ended up getting the full Game of the Year version, the original one. Before I want to get a new system so I can get the newest version now.
Right.
But I remember for like months I was like playing it, and I would like start over sometimes at certain points
Hmm.
because either a bug happened or something just happened I didn't like. Because I also get tired of the characters I play too easily sometimes. But
Yeah.
I love it every single time, even though I know how the story goes. I still love playing Skyrim to this
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. So yeah, I know we're hitting on like AI art and everything, AI writing. Yeah, the colleges are now starting to struggle with. They're like, oh, wait, students are using AI to write their papers, and they don't know what to do with it yet. Um, I guess it's harder to. Uh, it's certainly harder to find than plagiarism. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's harder to find than plagiarism. Um, but it's still, you could still kind of tell. Um, I guess you can kind of tell. I'm glad I'm not in teaching anymore, so I don't have to look at different papers and try to determine, what was, when I used to come across a paper that like was like really, really good. like beyond what the student had done before. I would just take the one sentence and put it into a search engine and see if it came up, and bang, an article would come up or a whole paper would come up, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's where it came from,
Right.
and but anyway, let's get back to
Uh, I apologize. I have to step away for just a split second. I'll
no,
be
sure.
right back.
Take
I'm
some
sorry.
time. If anyone else wants to jump in, I should do that. And let's do an invite. If anyone wants to come in on either the original topic or, um, or on your own topic, that's fine as well. So there is the invite. And if you want to come in on the same topic, that would be awesome. Um, and the topic is kind of, just trying to find common ground in gaming, and you know to get away from saying, oh, this is an edge lord and we shouldn't be following that, or this is a you know this author did this and his or her youth, and so now we need to not support it in any way, or they disparage even the content of the game, or the game system or the adventure module or whatever, rather than just saying, no, this is really I have an issue with the author and not so much the game system or the adventure itself, and and be open about that and clear about that kind of thing. Well, thanks a lot, OSR Dwarf. Yeah, I apologize for not putting that out there. Yeah, my next live stream will be next Sunday at 7 p.m. So yeah, so same time. That will be the last one of the month. So I will be giving away some free memberships as well on that day. So let's see. I would love to, but I'm beside a lousy, noisy server.
Yeah, he's Fox is Irish, so it's like really like super late in the morning for him, or like I guess
Oh,
really
really?
early in the morning for him. So he
Oh,
works
yeah, that's
basically
true.
nights on his
Yeah,
side of the world. So
yeah. Yeah, they're like 5 hours ahead or something like that.
like,
Um,
they're like a day and 5 hours or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, let's see. I'd love to. Um, Holiday weekend too. Oh, what holiday are you guys celebrating this weekend? Yeah, ours is
I
next week.
think
Ours is
next
Labor.
weekend is supposed to be Labor Day weekend. Yes.
Yeah, that's ours, but maybe theirs is
Oh,
different.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
they have a different holiday. Um,
I always think everyone follows the same calendars we do, and I have to remember, no, they don't.
oh, got someone coming in. So, hey, how's it going? All right. I couldn't hear you yet, so I don't know if you've tried to speak.
Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. Let me up. You're coming in maybe a little bit louder. Let's
Yeah,
see.
I can barely hear them either.
Yeah, I just jacked you all the way up. Um,
Big problem on my end.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
coming in super muffled. Um, you want to try to just drop out and come back in again?
Sure. One sec.
Yeah, yeah, give that a try. Maybe it just didn't catch. So late to the party. So we spoke about a few of them. Well, with the Red Room, all right, is one of them that actually did come up in the initial thing.
yeah.
Grim Jim usually comes up, particularly for this particular RPG. Um, then Lamentations of the Flame Princess, of course. James Raggi always comes up in that. Venger Satanis for Chalt. So that was something
Uh,
else that we brought up there.
we
Uh,
forgot Zach Smith.
Zach Smith, comes up often too. Actually, he just came out with a Lamentations of the Flame Princess set in Okinawa. Um, and I'm forgetting what that is. Alexander Macris often comes up, and Varg Vikernes comes up very often in that. And let's try to get.
Yeah, Nebulous. That was a new game that I heard about from.
Yes,
Can they hear me now?
much better. Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Sometimes that connection, doesn't catch the very first time. I get the same thing on Zoom with my job when people are trying to log in and it doesn't quite grab. But anyway, welcome. And I don't think you've ever been on my, in my backstage and on my screen. So doubly welcome.
Thank you. I've talked a couple times, of course, with Ultra. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Remind me who you are again.
Jeff from Benkar.
Oh,
you wanted to send me the free copy of White Star last year,
right.
but
that's
you
right.
looked at Canadian shipping and it killed
That's
your
right. Yeah. But I don't think I've ever actually heard your voice before, so this is kind of a immersion breaker for me. I've never heard you actually speak.
I think we did have a chance to at least hear each other talk before on one of Double D's when he was doing one of those rare days, and he invited a bunch of people.
Yeah.
That's what it was, because we were actually talking about Shadow Dark.
Yeah,
and I was actually commenting on the layout, because I actually, like everyone was covering else, I ended up commenting on the layout because I really liked how they set up the layout for Shadow Dark.
Yeah, I really like the layout too, and I loved how on most of the monsters is like a short description, and it's not box of text like D&D does for all their stuff now.
Well, that's something I'm really particular on when it comes to RPG books, because I've literally put books back on the shelf if I can't stand their layout, no matter how good they supposedly are. It's probably because I do take like the art and the artist seriously, but sometimes I find, and I imagine, I wonder if you two would agree with me on this, but when it comes to talking about art and artworks, there's such thing as an RPG book being too busy, like just having too much stuff. Yeah.
Morkborg immediately comes to my mind when you say that.
Yeah.
I took one look at Morkborg and I had to put it down. Like, I seriously, it's like, I didn't even get a chance to go through the rules. I just said, I'm going to, I like to do. I like to grab a book. I like to open up, flip to a random page and just show me what you got. And then I look at stuff like that and it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I will admit, as a game, I like Morkborg because, again, it's rules light and simplistic. But the funny thing is, I'm actually banned from the Morkborg Discord server because I don't agree with all the filthy commies that are in there.
Well, as someone who spent 15 years working healthcare and taking care of more than 24 people who lived in Eastern Europe, including 2 survivors of the Holocaust, as one of the finest gentlemen I ever knew of Polish descent has said, if you have Nazis on one side of you and communists on the other and you only have one bullet, go get more bullets.
I like that. Yeah. That's hilarious. I like that.
Yeah, I just want to mention to Dan here. Yeah, I'm not saying that he's an edgelord. That he's treated like he is one. No, I mean it's like from certain segments of the hobby, they would love to, ban him, but he never says anything that you can really point to and say, oh, you see, this is a viewpoint that he has. They just don't like the fact that he is, certainly conservative, but there's nothing in his game and nothing in, any of his, his statements or his articles or whatever that you can point to and say, oh, look, this is, but yeah, he's still, or his game is certainly attacked as if he is an edgelord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've thought about this idea slowly in my mind is I make a Morkborg satire game called Freedom Borg, where you're playing as an ultra American dude, and you're your enemies are communists and actual Nazis. That would be the name for it. It would be actual Nazi, and the things this is what it looks like, not what you hear from the media. That would be its description. Yeah. And then you got Rainbow Mafia, just whatever crazy stereotype you can think of to name something. That would be the enemy. Just a complete satire of a game.
Yeah. There's a video game that they made a spoof with on Kyle Rittenhouse called oh God, called like Unloaded or something. Oh, I gotta remember what it is. But yeah, you go out there and you're basically shooting Antifa, and you're doing all kinds of, all of the, people with pink hair and all kind, like just like a total, spoof on the whole thing, the whole argument.
Alex Jones has his own, I think, mobile game out there. I thought,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
which is
no,
funny because
yeah, I forget the
I
name.
remember that he goes on to Epstein Island to hunt the people on Epstein Island. So you know what? Good for you, Alex.
Yeah.
what's funny is in my one of the Barrels of Borderlands, I have a bunch of different characters because they also do one-to-one time. It's a human chronomancer, so he has time powers. So I made a young Alex Jones who came back in time and is now in the Barrels and Borderlands world. But he's a parody, so his name is Axel Johns, and he's there to stop the Lizard Shadow Mage government. Is his whole purpose for being in Barrels of Borderlands.
Well, there, I got a little something on the screen, at least, from my favorite RPG.
Oh, hold on, I can't. I'm trying
That's Dog Boy from Rifts. Because here's the thing. I like rules light games. I truly do. And then my main game is Rifts. Which you got like 300 books for and loaded down with rules and still. But as on to the point where we're talking about people like Raggy and stuff like that, and you have the Condors and, of course, gamers on games. Like, my view is this. I'm an old school gamer. I started in the late 90s. First game I ran actually was Rifts. I played 2nd edition D&D beforehand, but I had a few bucks. I went into my local comic book store. It's no longer there, sad to not the original anyway. And off for like $20 was this copy of a book which had a giant tentacle monster and half-naked chicks on the cover. So I'm like, hey, I'm a teenager. That appeals to me.
Yeah.
And so I went and got Rifts. And I've had such great success with the game, but that's in part because as wild and wacky as the game is, I've been able to get a groups of 12 and 13 people sitting at my table who care about the game and not about the politics. I've had Catholics, atheists, pagans, LGBTQ plus open people, everyone who they were. And the one golden rule was, hey, we're here to play a game involving crazy-ass monsters, starships, nuclear weapons, and everything in between. Kindly sit your arse down. Don't worry about your politics. You're here to have fun.
Yeah.
So when I see these things, it's like, it drives me nuts because I understand, like, as much as I hate the culture war stuff, I also understand the consequences of sometimes not if you don't push back on it, you'll end up with something worse longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and I'm very big on like, none of us should be keeping quiet anymore. We need to be speaking up and saying something, which has cost me a lot in like friendships and like acquaintances over the 2 years I've been doing this, because there are like a bunch of people that I'm friends with that do not get along with each other. And I tell them both the exact same thing. Don't bring me into your drama. You leave me out of it. Because if you try to bring me into it, it's not going to be pretty for you on my end.
Preach, brother, preach.
And you were talking about like politics. There used to be a group in my area that will hold like a monthly like gaming convention at whatever random place they could go to. Well, the last time I gamed with these people, they held it at a Lutheran church. I walk into that church, pride flags all over the place. And I didn't really pay it much mind at first. I just sat there and I played. I ignored it. But then on the Discord server I was in, someone kind of brought it up. Like they really started to push like the agenda basically on the server. Talk about, oh, we're supposed to be a safe space, and if you're not going to agree with us, then this isn't the place for you, kind of deal. So me and one other guy were like, okay, we're out then. You all have fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when I sit at the table, I know for a fact I could sit across from Grim Jim, who I will be the first to say he got some amazing ideas. All right.
Mhm.
I was actually looking up my PDF copy of Machinations of the Space Princess earlier today. I think the man's brilliant when it comes to RPGs. But you know what? I'm Canadian, and I still think his politics are shite.
Yeah.
The only thing I have to say about Whitechester is I wish it had a table of contents, because Whitechester is a huge book, with so much you have to flip through just to find stuff, and there's no table of contents in it.
Yeah,
But-
that's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like I was saying, though, it's like for me, when I see great folks like GM Bloodworth here, you, of course, Ultra, you know, I can disagree with you guys politically on issues, and I imagine there's at least a few things, right? But I know the moment if I ever got the chance to drop my dice bag on your game table and sat down, I know I'm in for a hell of a good time. You know, I like diversity in dragons. Do I share the same political beliefs as him? Some yes, some no. Same thing with the Nerd Cognito crew, or the other people I watch on a regular basis, or Harmony Ginger, or what have you, you know. But for me, it's I'm there to game with you. And if we get friendships out of it, even better, right? Yeah. I have friends that I don't share barely anything political on. But when we sit down to do our stuff like get the table and game and have fun and socialize, boom. And for me, that's the important part. And honestly, I feel like people like Gamers on Games and others of his ilk have just forgotten the plot.
Yeah, like Harmony Ginger, I don't even really know what her political values are because I've never heard her talk about them once ever on her show, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, it's like I love what she does. Like, the only reason I got interested in the idea of Braunstein and all that is because of all the stuff she would talk about with her game and all that. And I think it was actually Death Angel Shadows or Magnificent Devil, I forget which one, talked about a cyberpunk Braunstein, and that gave me the idea, and it's the whole reason I got a Kevin Crawford City Without Numbers game, which Kevin Crawford also does great work, but that's all he does. He puts out work, and that's all he does. No one knows anything about the dude besides his work for the most part.
Yeah. I do know one thing, though. Stars Without Numbers is pricey. It's a physical copy.
They're all pricey, yeah.
Yeah, all of those, those big, those big hardcover books, especially if they have multiple books in them, they're pushing like $80 now or more in some
Cities
cases.
Without Number was about $80 for me, I think, after shipping and handling.
They start getting, and then that's, we can get into the politics of that is, printing costs and it just costs a lot more, and then shipping and all the other stuff that was going on with tariffs, and even though tariffs technically do not impact books as much as board games, they do, they still have some residual effect to them, and I think at minimum it went from like a 7.5% tariff to a 10% tariff for books. So, and that 7.5 was there forever, so that was not anything really new. But then, I know I got into, because again, that's where I see the crossover between politics and gaming is when you start talking about, distribution, and you start talking about publishing, the actual physical publishing and where you're publishing and everything. And again, I mean, I looked at what Trollord Games did, and Trollord Games right out the gate was like, that's why we publish here, and we're looking to expand our own printing facility so that we can extend that once we get our stuff kind of underway and published and whatnot. We will open the doors for other gaming companies and other publishers to approach us and say, hey, can you make us copies too? Run these off. Go ahead.
I just thought of two more names to add to the Edgewell list. David Fox and that Steven guy who was doing all the Wonderful Games crap.
David Fox or Daniel Fox?
Daniel Fox, that's right. I'm sorry. Daniel Fox and the Steven dude from that Wonderful Games are also very much. Because I lost all respect for Daniel Fox after he signed the Games for Harris list, and then I was no longer interested in Giant Land Games when that Steven dude started doing his weirdness all over X.
I signed the Gamers for Harris list 3 times. All right, and 3 different names, 3 different connections and everything like that. And it was funny because when I saw that first come up, I was like, you know what? I know damn well they're not vetting this list. I said, so let me go in there and do it under my name, under my channel's name, under my everything, because they don't care. Nobody's looking at these lists and everything like that. I was like, they're not vetting it at all. So half these names could be fake or whatever. Anybody could put any of those names on there. You can impersonate somebody else and put it on there. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, this is not an accurate list to do, and then, I had said, hey, well, how cool would it be? And I said this to several other people out there that are known conservatives, in gaming. And I was like, hey, I'm going to do this. Wouldn't it be funny if like a whole bunch of us that are known conservatives put ourselves on that list? All right. But I was the only one that pulled the trigger and did it, and then I started having people saying, hey, I saw that you were on this list, and I would have never imagined that you'd be on this list. And I was like, I did it like a freaking, like, trolling them. I said, but it certainly backfired. I learned my lesson. I was like, all right, I can't expect that anybody else is going to take that step and do the same thing to prove that same kind of point, so yeah, it's like, so I am on that list 3 times, so you could see it there if they still have that thing up there. But
that thing vanished. That thing vanished the day after she lost. They scrubbed the internet of it.
I have to find it. I do have a Wayback Machine link that pulls up like the last name of the list before.
You could still find the one that Pramis did back on the orange list. You could still find, although that's a little bit harder. You really have to dig for the orange list. But when Green Ronin Games was crying about, oh well, we're going to go bankrupt, because of these tariffs and everything like that, I was like, well, I said maybe you shouldn't have told people not to buy your games, and you wouldn't have this issue, So I wasn't the tariffs; it was Diamond.
I was very public where it's like I have a hard time feeling sorry for a lot of these people that put all their trust in this business and had no backup plans for what would happen on the off chance that it would fail.
Yeah,
I can't feel sorry for them. They made the choice. Lie in the bed you made.
And Diamond was projecting going bankrupt for at least 7 years. It's like it was no surprise to anybody in comics that they were on the verge of going under. So yeah, that's just a bad, business model.
Then I loved when Ryan had Steven on for Nerdcognito. Ryan was perfectly. You could tell Ryan was trying not to hand him the rope, but as I describe it, Steven took the rope from Ryan and hung himself with it basically in that interview.
Yeah. That was a disturbing interview. I felt dirty watching it. I'll go fully own it. It's just the longer it went on, it's just like contradiction after contradiction after contradiction. I felt like politicians and used car salesmen were looking at this guy going like, where's the ethics? Where's the morality? Okay, we don't have any, but at least we have a low standard, but it's there. It's sad to say there are those individuals in the hobby space, but you're going to find individuals like that everywhere. Mm-hmm. So you just got to you just got to pay attention to the little things.
Yeah. So, so back on Daniel Fox, though, he did do somewhat of a mea culpa in a conversation with RPG Pundit, I believe. It was real.
I don't know.
6 months ago. He definitely made a mea culpa. He was like, you know what? I have one regret, and that was telling people not to buy my game. And it was just probably because he saw his sales numbers drop or whatever, and the fact that I don't think that he'll be able to pull off another another blatant ripoff of Warhammer again. So it's like that's another thing that he wasn't going to get away with. But sometimes they just they have the Cracker Barrel moment, or the Bud Light moment, and it's like, oh shit, we went too far.
Yeah. 1 seconds of Paizo kind of did the same thing, and they suffered greatly for it as well. There was that whole. Well, they've done it multiple times, and each
Yeah.
time it's bit them in the butt, and then they kind of regain a little bit, and then it bites them in the butt again. Like I'm trying to get rid of my because I bought the original second edition Pathfinder books, not the remaster ones. I have the original 2E versions,
Okay.
and it was one of those things where it's like there's so much detail. I look through it, and I'm like, I'm never gonna play this game.
I had the exact same thing. I was lucky enough though. I actually was able to sell mine.
And what drove me nuts about the remasters 2E that they made, it had less content in it compared to the original version. It was like half the book.
Well, yeah. Actually, Agile, I get along better with my used car salesman than I do with politicians.
Yeah, it's why I have the whole tabletop front line.
Yeah.
And now this actually the original version of this logo I actually made using AI, and my buddy Patty Parler made it because it's a sword going through the wizard hat and the dragon head, and I think that pretty much sums up because while D&D as a game is not dead, D&D as a cultural momentum I think has died down greatly over these last few years, especially with a lot of the stuff like with the OGL scandal, the art scandal, trying to go digital and all that. WotC has just been taking D&D and going down, farther down the drain with it, to where while people may still play that game, it's not as big of a cultural movement as it was originally.
Yeah, I've experienced that when I've talked with many of my local gamers at my local frontline game stores.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm really lucky. We have 3 solid stores in this town, and I frequent 2 of them a lot. So I've actually talked to them, and I talk to people who are on all sides of the political spectrum, who love the games, but even they, like even a lot of the people who I would say would be solidly left in that whole branch of things, even they are getting tired of the stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and like for me, in my community, we have still a lot of 3.5 and Pathfinder 1E groups because there's just a lot of people, they went into 5e, it was okay, but they didn't get that satisfaction. So they went back to other games. I know there's at least one Lamentations group in town. I do know we've got, I think, 1 or 2 2e groups still going.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my regular 3.5 game as well. We're doing Age of Worms from the Pathfinders when they did that adventure. So for me, it's like we're seeing a lot of this results, but I know the people who run the stores, and some of them have like stacks of like the newest 5e stuff, and they couldn't give it away. Like
when
like Radiant Citadel, like stack of books taller than me.
Forever.
Yeah,
which is when I ran Horde Wars at my local convention, I gave out some business cards. Blackwall sent me some. And some people actually told me they went ahead and they actually bought like the basic PDF because I wanted them. I introduced them the basic version and then said, hey, if you like this, the advanced version has even more that you can do, because it was interesting. So I ran 2 games, 2 different days. It started on Friday, which I didn't go to until later that day because I had to work. But I was just there exploring because it was also a big board gaming convention as well. A lot of board game stuff going on as well. So I played some board games, talked with some folks. I actually met these 2 really nice ladies that of course, I hate using the term neurodivergent because I do have autism, but I still hate that term. But they're these neurodivergent ladies that create basically neurodivergent friendly games. And I talked to them, and I actually kind of liked what they were going for, because the idea was it was to try to get people to kind of be more people who suffer, who like have difficulties with certain stuff, kind of go deal with that. So I was helping them out and actually told them about itch.io, and which they had no clue that such a site existed until I told them about it right there and then. And they actually said they uploaded a lot of their files because I'm like, you don't have to sell physical games, upload the files, let people print it out, and now you have a DIY game that people can now have. So that was fun. But the first game I ran on Saturday was a full table, 6 players, all like older people, and they just breezed through it like no other. They all had fun. They were killing goblins left and right. Now the Sunday game I ran had it was like 4 or 5 people. They were all younger, and you could easily tell these are like 5th edition players, because when it came to the spells, that some of them had for their characters, they were trying to figure out like why they could just cast it over and over again. Why
Right.
was it only like that? And so it was interesting explaining to the guy who had the red wizard, you can only cast a fireball one time.
Yeah, Vancian magic. That's definitely something that's led to some arguments with some of the people I've known. Like it's the original art of magic. I don't begrudge it. I play a lot of wizards. I won't lie, as I tend to play a lot of otter spellcasters in general. Like if I can, like if I'm doing 2E, I'll always try to take a specialist over a universal.
Right.
For same thing with 3/5, stuff like that. So, but I remember seeing a couple people's first introduction to Vancian magic, and they were just like, "What?" They literally couldn't wrap their head around it.
It's not that it is just very limiting, and I have slowly grown into, even in the games that still look to use Vancian magic, I'm like, now I'm going to let you cast more often. I'm going to give you a casting roll that you have to meet. And if you feel, I use Shadow Dark's system basically in virtually everything. I use it in Castles and Crusades. I use it in, I was using a variant of it for AD&D First Edition. I have certainly grown tired of the limitations of Vancian magic.
Now, for me, I've actually come to thoroughly enjoy the style of white box gaming. Now, this one is like one of my favorite books. It's White Box Cyclopedia by James Spahn, who's become one of my favorite like TTRPG authors. I own his White Star game that Jeffrey was talking about earlier, and it's rule basically White Box is very much rule simple and light to the point where anyone can pick it up and just play it. And that's what I love about. That's what really got me hooked into like the White Box old school style of gaming. So just like my buddy Matt, who made Barrels of Borderlands, he started with 5e, and he said they worked their way backwards, playing all the previous editions until they got to 0e and Chainmail, and they said they all enjoyed that, even at their young, like late millennial, early Gen Z age. They love that a lot more, and that's what caused Barrels of Borderlands to come to be. And then they play other games. They play like Empire of the Pale Throne. I brought up. They also play Hyperborea. The one game I personally brought, it's called Warriors of the Red Planet, which is also white box, but it's like John Carter of Mars style gaming. Right. That's another one, because we actually watched that recently. It was the Disney movie John Carter, which I hadn't seen that movie in so long. It's one of my favorite Disney movies I watched. I forgot it was 2 hours long though.
Well, yeah, that's actually not bad. It's been a long time since I've seen any John Carter content though, so I really have to take a dive back in. I still got I'm halfway through the collective works of Lovecraft. I got to get back to that. I got Conan sitting right beside that to go afterwards. So I myself am just hitting those classics. Like right now, just I've mentioned this before, like when I've mentioned ask questions on places like Nerd Cognito and Diversity and Dragons. I'm starting to work on my own content. Basically a case of put up or shut up, and I'm actually looking at doing small PDF splats for items initially and then go from there. So I'm looking for all that inspiration because like I'll fully admit, I wonder how much my preferred system has affected my choices as a game master, because I do find that when I look at a lot of the great content you can look up and a lot of the great people on things like Drive-Thru, you see lots of adventures or source books and stuff like that. But like I said, my main game's always been Rifts. It's the first game I've GM'd. It's the games I've had the longest campaigns in. And one of the things Rifts is really notorious for is you get splat books. You get a lot of splat books. Like there are just literally, I could reach out and touch the books because they're right beside my computer. There's some here with like 50, 60 weapons and suits of power armor, magic items and stuff like that. And it's just, I'll fully admit I like the toy box approach. So I have to consider, but I want to do it right because of the things I'm writing. I want to do it for the OSR, but I want to do OSR style toy boxes where the GM says, okay, I need a weird magic item. Flip a page. This one will do. So for me, I do think we need to go back to that older style, if only to help flail creativity. Sure.
Yeah, sorry. I just had to step. I didn't want to step away to grab something really quick. But one of the things that sorry, I had to. My dad's coming over to grab something really quick because I forgot to leave something at the house earlier. So no, but what I was talking about earlier, City of Mist, since it was my first RPG, always holds a special place in my heart. And now, and I've talked to the creator of City of Mist before, and he's a Middle Eastern gay man. That's kind of a weird dichotomy, I admit.
Right.
But he lives in Boston, and he's Middle Eastern gay. But when all this stuff was happening with the other City of Mist content creators trying to cancel me because of what I believed and all that, he actually took the time to reach out to me and be like, how much of this is true of what they're saying and what's not? Because they're all saying like, oh, I'm a Nazi. And he like straight up talked to me. We had a good conversation. I kind of kept quiet on the server so not to cause any more drama. And he would have said like, hey, you all may not agree with he is, but he's not a Nazi. So everyone shut the F up and go back to gaming. Because like, so me and him, the creator of the game I love, we don't politically align at all. But I respect him because he made a great game that got me to where I am now, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like kind of circling back and getting back to the original, the original topic is that's really all I'm arguing for is let's put all of this other stuff aside and gaming and none of these other things during that 3 or 4 hours that you're sitting down. I'm not saying that you're on a personal level, you're players. You know what I'm saying? That like, we have that time of that kind of conversation in between game sessions. It's like that's for leading up like the day or two before the game. Hey, who can make it? Who can't make it? Hey, what's going on? How you feeling? That kind of thing. But once that 3-4 hour game window starts, it's like, all right, let's focus in on what we're doing, what we're looking, either recapping for 20 minutes of what happened last time to get us all caught up again, or whatnot, or if somebody missed and they want to know, hey, what happened with my character during this time, because we usually run with the characters when they do miss out anyway. So but it's game time is game time. And I think if more people really look at it and look at that time frame as being sacrosanct, and we're not going to let anything else intrude in on this time frame so that we can all have an enjoyable time. That is something that I think is important for us to get to. So when we have people with channels or just people in general, whether it be on Discord or whatever, saying, hey, let's exile this person, let's not deal with this person, let's block this person, or let's ban this person from our server and whatnot. Hopefully people don't just line up like lemmings and they make their decisions on their own, and they value their own experience with that individual beyond what someone else is telling them to do.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we could come up here and we can share our own thoughts and opinions all day, every day. But like I said, people may listen to me and they may not agree with me. But if they happen to come to a convention and I'm running a game, I can guarantee you're not going to hear what I say on here at the table. I'm just going to focus on the game.
Right.
I think I've only ever banned one person from my table, and that was due to extensive issues that were related to certain criminal charges they faced.
Yeah,
yeah,
I've never banned anyone from my table. I've had people leave my table, not very many, but I've had people leave my table because they just didn't feel, whatever. They didn't feel like they were part of the group. But those were usually people that were, the two players that I had were kind of those what I call like a spotlight player, or I always forget the term that other people use for it. The the most important character syndrome, that they have. It's like I got to be the center of everything going on. Those are the only
The
times.
lead or the I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
forget the term
theatrical
that's
term.
actually used. Yeah, there's an actual term for it. It's the most important character syndrome. I forget what the heck it's called. Someone will jump in there and say what it is. But anyway, it's not the lead actor, but it's something like that. Lead character to, yeah, limelight. I call it spotlight. Spotlight characters. They want the spotlight always on themselves and what their character's doing. So that's that's the only kind of truly toxic player that I have encountered. And I count myself fortunate that it's only been 2 in all of the years that I've been running games now, since 2015, basically. So it's been a great run with only having 2 players like that.
I had in what City Mist game I ran years ago, and I actually brought it when I actually mentioned them on a post because it was answering a question someone else posted. It was it was me and 3 other people. All 3 play through the entirety of the campaign, and then one of them decided to go out on social media when all the canceling started and saying like, "Oh, I did like inappropriate jokes. I said such and such." Now, given, of course, I do make inappropriate jokes. It's a game, so I will make all sorts of jokes about any character, regardless of who you're playing as, because that's just my humor. It's like the darker the better sometimes for me. So, like, it should be you turn off the room and you can't see it. That's how dark sometimes I can get with these jokes. But that's just game banter is all that is. But they're
Right.
going on, they're complaining about it. And I'm just like, you sat through the entire game. And I'm very much open with if we have a problem or there is something that you do not like that I'm doing or makes you uncomfortable. I have no issue with you coming to me and telling me such a thing. That is how this is supposed to work. If you're just going to take it and not tell me, you don't get the right to go out and complain about what you never presented to me in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. I've had one incident like that in my own gaming group, and I'm glad to say I was on the right side of it, where we had a player's wife who had joined us, and needless to say, she took exception to certain things I had said, even though at the time of the conversation it wasn't even in game. We were referencing something in the real world. So we were talking about a news story a few minutes before the game. But then afterwards, I got brushed with the naughty German word, and like a tyrant up now. It's like, and then later, soon after that, both that player who did cause some issues themselves and his wife left the group. And honestly, it's sad to say, but sometimes you need someone to walk out that door to improve things.
Yeah.
It's like I've personally known and cared for 2 Holocaust survivors. So one of the few things that will actually piss me off is if you compare me to the naughty Germans. So
I am also very much a free speech absolutionist and believe that comedy is rated E for everybody gets roasted, as I like to say.
Oh, yes.
There is
absolutely.
You can punch up or you can punch down. Comedy knows no bounds, in my opinion. So I hate when people try to tell me. I actually had this because I forget what it was. I was on DM James's show, like one Monday, and Bear was also on. And I don't have any issue with the Bear. Bear's a great dude. A little bit of a boomer at times, but he's a good dude. And he was talking about like some Jew jokes, and I just right off the cuff made one. And he tried to get on to me for it, and I'm like, no, comedy's rated E for everyone. And he tried to like argue with me about it. I'm just like, yeah, forget it. I wasn't gonna waste my time bothering it because like I don't believe in the you can't punch down thing. With comedy, you can punch up and punch down because it doesn't matter who it is. You're there for laughs at the end of the day, which is also why I'm a big free speech abolitionist because there's no such thing as hate speech. You may not like what someone has to say, but that doesn't mean you have to censor people. And that's there's a weird line when you get into all that because it's like what falls under free speech kind of deal, and then it's like at this point it's like it's hard to say anything at this point.
Yeah, it's sad but true. Like up here in Canada, we have laws about pronouns. So I can be dragged, just as an example, and I've mentioned this before on a couple of times when I've talked to people like Diversity and Dragons. Like, I was dragged in front of the Human Rights Tribunal because I literally said, hey, I have no issue being polite and using someone's pronouns. I just don't think the government should regulate it.
Yeah.
So
They should. Agreed.
Yeah, the irony is the person who brought the charge got pissy about it because it's, well, you heard what he said, and then they had to sit down and explain to them, yeah, but it's not he's not it's not that he isn't using the pronouns. It's he says he just doesn't think the government should be involved. And I'm indigenous, I am Métis, so it's like, we don't trust the government. We have hundreds of years of not trusting the government for a reason. So for me, it's like, no, I'm not insulting you. I'm not being mean to you. I just don't think it's their job. Yeah. But that's what we deal up here in Canada. So we're a very silly nation. I will own that.
Okay. So listen, I am going to have to wrap this up now. But gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Hunter, great to be on. You guys are always welcome to come on. Like I said, virtually every Sunday at 7 p.m. I'm here. You're always welcome to go on. We'll see what the topic is for next week. But it was great. It was great meeting you, Hunter, through the means that we did. I wish your channel more luck. Jeff Ram, when you get your channel up and rolling, make sure that you send me a little note in any of my videos, and just say, hey, my channel is up now. I mean, I'll subscribe now and hit the alert button. Those alert buttons don't always work.
God, do I know it?
They're notoriously bad, and they but I will certainly follow. And
no problem. I'm right now, my main project is starting. I'm going to be getting a couple things up on drive-through in the next few months, and once those are up, that's when my channel is going to be starting.
Okay,
I've been thinking about it for a while, but I want to get I just felt it'd be appropriate to get a bit of content out first before I tried to sell myself, as it were.
Sure. Yeah. And
thank you for having me on.
In the chat, thanks for following along and engaging in the chat and everything. And for those for your memberships, the memberships that you gave out, thank you so much. For those that had done that, Agile as always, as well as others. Why can't I see my little thing for the chats? Let's see. No, I can't. That's weird.
I was just gonna say really quick, thanks for having me on. It was great to be here.
No, it's like great to have you on.
Yep. I've always liked the shows. I don't get to watch every single one of your shows, but when I do, I always enjoy it. Well, so it's also great that, again, it's nice when yes, I may be the young millennial that's ruining everything, but at least I'm not completely lost, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, everyone, thanks for joining, and you'll have a good one. I'll see you hopefully next weekend or throughout the week. I plan on doing some videos. I have to get into my my shelf tour and start showing off my first edition and stuff. These next couple of days. So everyone, have a good one. Have a great remainder of your weekend, as few hours as we have left in it. And
from my heart to all of you.
Yeah.
Have a great one, everybody.
Throw your heart out to everyone. That's a good way to finish.